Super Smash Bros. Is one of the more popular things in gaming these days, but while the gameplay is really fun, we all know the main reason for its popularity is due to the fact that it's a crossover with like 800 other popular gaming franchises, which of course begs the question of why there aren't more gaming crossovers out there. Well, as I'm sure most of you already know, there actually are, and some of them are even pretty damn cool. However, for all the good gaming crossovers there are out there, there's like 10 others that'd be even cooler, but sadly, licensing issues are probably a pain in the ass to deal with. But if they weren't, then I think there's a lot of potential for gaming crossovers out there that haven't happened yet that make rights holders a lot of money and raise all kinds of hell in the gaming community. You know, the good kind, of course. So sit back in your most expensive chair, beat your grandfather in an arm wrestling contest so he knows his place from now on, press the subscribe button if you haven't already, and allow me, the Ayatollah of rock and roll, a camera in all one word, to tell you the 11 biggest gaming crossovers that need to happen before it's too late. When's too late, you ask? I don't know, it's already too late if you think about it, so let's not waste any more time and kick things off with... Number 11. Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, I know we already have Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, but when we'd all gather around at the playground and argue over who we thought was better between Sonic and Mario, I don't think anybody had the Olympics in the back of their mind. And had you told 10-year-old me that there would have been a crossover between the two someday, I wouldn't have given a monkey's nutsack if he showed me what we'd eventually get. The real game that everybody wanted to see was Mario and Sonic in some kind of platformer, whether it be by joining forces in gameplay or by going against each other in a story or something like that. And you know what? I still think there's just as much potential for that now as there ever was. The main problem with this is that I find it hard to believe that Nintendo would want to make a game and share the rights with another company for future re-releases and stuff like that. And if Sega were the ones to make it, let's be honest, it probably wouldn't be up to Mario's standards, even if Christian Whitehead were involved. However, that doesn't mean that we should just give up on the game though, because even though I have no idea how you could combine Mario's power-ups and platforming with Sonic's speed to where it would be better than Mario just having his own game, I'm sure there's something that could be done to make it one of the coolest things ever. Number 10. Metroid and Megaman. I'm sure there's probably a lot of people out there who prefer the idea of having a Metroid and Star Fox crossover instead, but while that does sound good on paper, if you really think about it, the only two things those games really have in common is the fact that they both take place in space. In a Metroid's case, it's really not even in space, it's more so just on other planets. However, if you were to find a reason for Mega Man to somehow cross paths with Samus on one of these planets though, then I'm pretty sure we could get a really unique game that combines the creepy atmosphere and exploration aspects for Metroid with the boss fights and intense platforming for Mega Man with the suit building mechanics of both. Honestly, it'd be pretty straightforward as to how it'd work. You choose either Mega Man or Samus, start off in the middle of a giant labyrinth, and try to build your suit and armor up while beating 8 bosses and stealing their powers. You could have all kinds of alternate paths based on the individual abilities of Mega Man and Samus, and then after all that, you could go through another labyrinth that requires you to use all your upgrades and special weapons to make progress. Just because it's not complicated doesn't mean that it wouldn't be great. Or whatever, maybe Metroid and Star Fox would be better, I don't know. Number 9. Zelda and Raving Rabbids. I know this sounds really random, but then again, so was the crossover with Mario and the Raving Rabbids, and that game turned out to be a pretty damn good strategy RPG, so I have no doubts that doing the exact same thing with Zelda would be just as good, if not better. And if you're not down with Zelda, then just pick whatever franchise you want. To be honest, I don't really care. I just want another one of these games, damn it. Number 8. Castlevania and Dark Souls. Alright, I'm not gonna lie and act like I've played Dark Souls before, but from what I hear, it's a lot of fun and a lot harder than my dad watching an episode of SmackDown. And seeing as how it exists in a similar world to Castlevania, I don't see any reason why you can't just combine these two together and call it a crossover. Whether it be Castlevania characters simply being added to a Dark Souls game, or a Metroidvania adventure with Dark Souls elements, I don't really care. All I know is that the world needs a new Castlevania game, and I've been meaning to play Dark Souls anyway, so why not let me experience both of them at the same time with a crossover that I'm sure fans of both franchises would love. Number 7. Senran, Kagura, and Final Fantasy. For those of you who don't know, Senran Kagura is a fighting franchise where the entire cast is made up of respectable women and the gameplay is just so much fun and clearly the main reason why anyone plays these in the first place. And since the Final Fantasy franchise has plenty of respectable women who I only like based on their personalities alone, then I think it'd be really cool to see them get their own fighting game in the Senran Kagura series. And as fun as the Senran Kagura fighting games are, there's also beach volleyball and massage simulation games as well that may consist of partial nudity and sexually charged moments, but we all know that those elements are barely even noticeable and that the real thing people want is solid gameplay. So even though the Final Fantasy women are attractive now that I think about it, I think they'd have a lot more than that to offer the Senran Kagura series. But just don't tell my wife Chili that I'm playing though, or I'll be sleeping on the couch all over again. Number 6. Tomb Raider and Uncharted. This one's pretty straightforward. Nathan Drake's more or less a male version of Lara Croft, and while both franchises run on completely different engines, they're still similar enough to where neither franchise would have to make that many compromises in a crossover. But while some people might think that defeats the purpose of a crossover in the first place, the main appeal here would be getting a fun story and seeing characters from both franchises interacting with each other. Or really just Lara Croft interacting with people from the Uncharted world, since most of the other characters in the newest Tomb Raider reboot series are relatively forgettable. Number 5. Fire Emblem and Pokemon. This one might seem a little bit out there for you, but if you think about it for a minute, I think you'll realize that this could be a pretty fun game. I mean, both franchises have assloads of characters that get updated every few years, and while both are very different kinds of RPGs, I think that combining the two could have a lot of potential. I mean, it'd be pretty lame if you took Fire Emblem characters and had them do 6 versus 6 battles, but if you used Fire Emblem's grid-based battle system with characters from all the games in the franchise dueling with villains using various Pokemon, then I think we'd be in store for a pretty unforgettable game. I mean, it worked when they combined Pokemon with a battle system similar to Final Fantasy Tactics, and since Fire Emblem already has all kinds of strengths, weaknesses, flying, and grounded units to consider during battle anyway, then I don't really think you'd have to change all that much to make the same battle system work with Pokemon as a monkey wrench. And to make things a little more interesting, you could even have Team Rocket be the bad guys or something, I don't know. Number 4. Contra and Metal Slug. While both of these franchises are similar, I'm also well aware of the fact that they're both so different at the same time, and the diehard fans of both games probably don't want the mechanics of the other franchise tainting things. But you know what, with a little creativity, I think we could probably get the ultimate shoot-'em-up by combining certain elements from both franchises, and much like all the other crossovers on this list, I'm sure we could get some fun dialogue between the characters as well. And since both games are relatively simplistic, Konami wouldn't even have to stop making pachinko machines and abusing their employees and just let SNK or anybody else do all the heavy lifting. Number 3. Okami and The Legend of Zelda. I don't think Capcom's ever tried to hide the fact that Okami is basically their version of Legend of Zelda, and seeing as how they've actually made some really good 2D Zelda games in the past, it shouldn't be surprising that their attempt at a similar game in 3D hit the ball out of the park. I mean, it's almost as if it was Capcom's lifelong dream or something. However, even though Okami still isn't Zelda by any means, it definitely brought some fresh new ideas to the table with the paintbrush mechanics. And I think that if both franchises joined forces, then we could probably get something really special. And seeing as how Nintendo's already loaning the Zelda IP out to other developers anyway, then why not let Capcom get another crack at it for a crossover with Okami? After all, worst case scenario, I'm sure it wouldn't be any worse than the time that Philips got to make 3 Zelda games. So honestly, what's the harm in letting Capcom make half a Zelda game? Number 2. Mario Kart and as many other franchises as possible. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Smash Bros. Has really good gameplay, yeah, but the main appeal's obviously with the crossover elements. So just imagine what the same exact concept could do for a series like Mario Kart, where the gameplay is much more appealing to casual gamers. Not only would it make the series even more popular, but it'd also be a lot more fun in my opinion. Sure, Mario Kart's already more popular than Smash without nearly as many crossover elements, and yeah, you could argue that that means it doesn't need any more outside franchises hogging the spotlight, but I'd still argue that adding more crossover elements would only make the franchise that much bigger. And when you look at how much people loved the few crossover aspects that we did get in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, then just imagine what bringing even more franchises into the mix could do for the series. I mean, unlike Smash Bros, adding new characters doesn't require nearly as much work, and if you've got to add new courses anyway, then new IPs would only make coming up with new ideas that much easier than making another Bowser Castle or something. I mean, just imagine how cool it'd be to race on tracks based on Metroid, Pokemon, or even Pikmin. I know third-party royalties for Smash Ultimate are probably enough of a nightmare for Nintendo to deal with, but even if they just stuck to their own IPs, there's still more than enough ideas that could probably last for like 8 games, and if they could gain access to third-party IPs outside of Pac-Man for the arcade version, then I think we could be in for a real treat. And this isn't just my idea, pretty much everybody on the internet wants this, so if the next game in the series is anything but Nintendo Kart, then I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed now that Nintendo's given us a taste. Number 1. Nintendo vs. Capcom. Nintendo wants third-party exclusives on the Switch, but the problem with that is that it's probably harder now than ever before to entice a developer to only put their games on one platform, and if they do, it just makes more sense to prioritize a console that isn't underpowered. Even if graphics do matter less now than ever before. However, one thing Nintendo has that'd be impossible to resist, though, is access to their long list of IPs, since those are the main reason why people buy their consoles to begin with. And yeah, it'd obviously be a bad idea to let anybody make Nintendo games just for the sake of having more exclusives on the Switch, but if it's an idea that's already been proven to be a success, then I think N-Dog would be foolish not to loan their IPs out for a must-have game. And based on the popularity of Capcom's other Versus games, I'd say you're probably not going to find a safer bet than that. Honestly, I'm surprised this never happened before, since I can't imagine either Nintendo or Capcom not being down for it, but even though hardcore fighting games probably aren't everybody's cup of tea, it better be a pretty damn cool experience, and probably create a lot of new fans in the genre as well. But anyway, that's all I got. I know there were a lot of Nintendo franchises on this list, but what can I say? They've got a lot that I like. But whether you're down with that or not, vote in the poll, let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, I'll try my goddamnedest to respond to everybody. But let me tell you, if there's two human beings who'd make the greatest crossover of all time, then it would definitely be today's patrons of the day, El Gringo and Devin Ray. If you want to be badasses like these two, then consider supporting FU Game Crew on Patreon for loot boxes and all kinds of wacky rewards in the mail. And if you want to make cameos, then send pictures or videos of you rocking any FU Game Crew merch doing whatever you want as long as YouTube allows it, like these badasses you see before you. And as always, like and share this video if you want to help this channel grow, and if you want to prove that you're not down with registered sex offenders, then go right ahead and press that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, I'm going to be streaming on Twitch at Cameron All One Word whenever I play games from now on, so feel free to come hang out and heckle me sometime. My name's Cameron All One Word, and I'll be back with more videos soon.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.